Boom, Ram Ram, and welcome to another vlog of the Flowing Dutchman. Now in this motorbike vlog I am driving on my Royal Enfield Thunderbird from Devpal Motors in Bhavnagar. And in this video I wanted to talk about the wrestler's body. I'm just gonna start my bike and we're gonna talk about that in just a bit. And close this one. There we go. Cello. Cello. Always fun to start. Always fun to go from 0 to maximum speed. Deep down I do remain a complete fan of everything that has a motor. My actual first words were auto, which means car in English or in Dutch, sorry. So these trips and these travels are like a combination of the travel, which I love, the freedom, the passion for motorcycles, and then the passion of training combined in one. So in essence it's a combination of everything. And then I really have a big passion for India and its traditional cultures and training cultures. You know, this actually, I'm going to talk about the wrestler's body very soon, but it's funny because the reason why I started going more towards India after my first trip, which was with my girlfriend. We went for 3 months, 1 month to India, 1 month to Nepal, hiking in the high mountains, and then 2 months in India. We bought the bike that I still have, an old model 98 army green Royal Enfield, which we had a lot of trouble with. Wait a second. Yes. they kind of go so fast that you have to pay attention, because if I pull in front, they won't like it so much, even though I'm almost going the same speed. But that has probably got to do with the fact that they believe that cars have, well, because they are bigger, they have. They always have. I can't seem to find a word. They will always have the right to. They always have the right to move first. So that's why I let that car go. The passion of me. That first 2 months of traveling, even though we had a lot of trouble with the bike, and just the sheer amount of differences in cultural habitats between states, it gave me this impression of India, which was like basically a continent, not just a country, just a continent with every state being a different country in its own different language, different food, different clothing. Only the people look very similar. So I can imagine that it's, when you live in India, it's just very, what the hell? It's just very, it's very common to just travel in India and not travel abroad. So the fact that we bought that bike and went all the way to the south from Agra, which is almost north of India to south of India, that really gave me and us a very broad perspective of the country, and we fell in love with the culture, and it's real culture, not the culture you find in Goa, which is very different than the culture you find, the traditional culture in the small villages in the northern part of India, which is still present in India, which is so cool. It's still so raw and different than the West, even though if you go to Mumbai, for example, which I haven't been to, but from what I've heard, people get brought up in English or with the English language, and you know, the whole cultural history is kind of forgotten, but it's still here. So I wanted to talk about in this, what I wanted to talk about in this video specifically was about the wrestler's body. I was asked this morning how many hours I train a day, and if I train for a specific sport, because I visited some talims and akaras, and they were wondering, what kind of sport do you do? Because you have this athletic body, right? Not just a gym body, but like you can actually do something with it. So then I usually just say, especially here in India, it's like my sport is gada mukgar, which is partly true. I also do other things. I also do some strength training on the side, and just the overall goal of my health and physique is just to be strong at basically everything. Have some level of strength in every aspect of what your body can do. So really, it be squats, lunges, or pull-ups, or a press, or a swing. I want to be powerful and have strength in almost every aspect of all those parts, at least to maintain that strength. Because I would feel less powerful if I wouldn't be able to hang for a certain amount of time, or wouldn't be able to pull myself up with ease, you know. I feel those things are very, very... This distinction seems to happen sometimes. There's a counter reaction on all the bodybuilding. It seems to be that people only then, no, bodybuilding is bad. That's all the way only to functional types of training. So that's only train as a runner, or only train as we naturally move. And I feel like that's a bit too far on the spectrum. It's a combination of those two, at least in my perspective. That's what at this moment feels really good for me, having a combination between some more linear strength training and also the other side, the rotational training, where the main thing is skill. Like even with the strength training, it's also the main thing is skill, but then again the skill is relatively easy, and then the weight increases quite quickly once you develop the skill. With these types of functional training, it's more difficult to increase the weight because there's so much involved with all this training specifically. So in India, I would say that my sport would be Gada Muktal and fitness. And then they kind of look at me like, they don't really get it. Like, what's the reason why you train then, right? And that's a good question. Why would you train if there would be no prize to be won from the fact that you're training? Well, solid question. Because in the past, these akaras, these talims and akaras, they are up to 200 years old. So that means that was in a completely different time. Imagine being in 1820 and starting that akara. So there was, sometimes we gotta have this perspective, right? Because the whole modern era of gyms that are going on right now, and this development of, well, basically the financial, it's become a very big and powerful business, whereas there wasn't the case 40-50 years ago at all, maybe even 30 years ago. It's very, very, very relatively new. So, and because it is gone up so quickly, all the rest that was already going on would kind of oversnowed. Like we don't see it anymore. We don't practice it anymore. And I see it also. I witnessed it also in India. The people have memories that in their childhood they were taught balakam, some wrestling. They went to an akhara. They learned about their body, physical fitness. And right now they have kind of forgotten it. And it also starts to become less apparent in the schools right now. So these things kind of are slowly dying, and that's a shame. But for me, being healthy, fit, a combination of being mobile, strong, having proper coordination, having some type of endurance and some type of power, and combining that with awareness, so being able to develop your 3D awareness, so or spatial awareness, being able to know where your body is in space, and being able to interact with the tool, which is basically the coordination. It's that combination is for me is key. So I just train, and I started to train as a form that I wanted to be disciplined. I just took it as something, okay, if I can be good at this, if I can be very consistent at this, I can become good at something. And that is the gateway, maybe a gateway drug, but for some it is. It's a gateway into the world of becoming an adult, taking responsibility, making sure that you do the work and be consistent in it, so that you'll be able to provide for your family and loved ones. So, but the physical development is that combination of strength and also agility, mobility, and coordination is something we tend to forget when we talk about modern gyms. It's starting to tilt just a little bit now, but it's still not there yet. And the ideal picture of an athlete has become kind of skewed because of all the big bodybuilders that use steroids and enhanced drugs and use a very specific method, a very contraction of the muscle in a very particular way, which is quite unnatural. I know it's a natural way of moving, but that's what I wanted to talk about in this video. The wrestler's body, right? The kushti strength, which is, to me, feels much more of a natural way of being strong. Because these guys actually practice wrestling throughout the day. They wrestle quite a bit, and that makes them stronger. But they want to have they want to be completely strong. So they want to increase their strength to get better at wrestling, to be, for example, heavier, which increases the weight class, or being stronger, so someone with a similar technique, or maybe even someone with a slightly better technique, you'll be able to handle him because your strength is actually more on point. It's better. So in that way, they have all these types of methods to train their body, and that all these different methods they used to practice them in different states. So for example, here in Kolhapur, where I was, they do a lot of rope climbing, while in Vadodara, where I also was, the wrestlers practice much more Malakam. And in Maharashtra, by the way, also. So it depends which methods they use to get stronger. But all these methods, and the Gada, for example, in Banaras, it was more of the Gada and the Mughal, and you have, and this varies from, like I said, from city and to state. But all these practices are basically meant to make you stronger at being able to wrestle, so to fight with someone, making sure that you are strength and technical wise the better athlete, which in some view is what real strength is, right? Being able to lift a barbell is of course also strength, but it doesn't necessarily transitions in or translates to a real physical sport or a technical ability to. That's also what I witnessed when I tried to do kushti, because this morning I did kushti against a 60 kilograms, 16 years old national competitor, and I got him a few times, but he got me a few times too. And I'm a lot bigger. I have much more experience with strength training, and still he was able to beat me. So don't underestimate the development of skill. That's basically what I'm trying to say. Oh, I think I need to. I'm burning out my fuel here. I gotta put on the reserve. Otherwise I'll be out of fuel very soon. I wasn't paying attention to that. Ooh la la. I think I'm still good, but happens when you start vlogging. Forget about your fuel. Damn. I'll be able to make it. So this powerful, you know, becoming stronger at wrestling, and I've heard that the Malakam was a way to wrestle with someone when you don't have someone around. I also heard that people from other sports like badminton, tennis, they also do Malakam just to make sure that their body is agile, mobile, and strong. So all these different forms of training to become stronger as a wrestler are individually exercises and movements that develop the overall body strength. So you become a more well-rounded athlete. And of course, all these different ways of becoming stronger at wrestling have kind of turned out to be different sports. So now you have in Varanasi, you have a sport where they swing the joris, and the idea is to go as heavy as possible. And same with Gada. Malakam is a sport on its own. It's a international, starting to become international sport now, where people actually compete against each other, not necessarily to become a better wrestler, but just to become better at the skill of the sport that makes them traditionally a better wrestler, better at the wrestling. Which basically means they help the body to become more strong, agile, mobile. So I really, really dig that idea that all these practices help in that way, and that you can choose to specialize in them, or you can choose to use them as a way to become stronger or more skilled as a wrestler. So usually the wrestlers don't lift so... When you see the Gada and the Mudgal, for example, in Gangabesh Talim, where I was, they had a very big Mudgal, which was about 22 to 25 kilograms. And this Mudgal, I was able to swing it, but they weren't. So they said, yeah, only a few of the highly competitors are able to swing it. So in my mind, that's just like, okay, that is I've become strong in this particular sport, right? I've specifically bettered the skill of doing this, so I became stronger at swinging a Gada Mudgal. So they are impressed, but basically they are impressed with, of course, it's strength, but it's also skill, and it's a lot. It has a lot to do with skill. It has so much to do with skill. So, making a conclusion, I have to take some new gasoline. In conclusion, I want to talk about this for the last bit. Is how impressed I am with the strength of these individual athletes, and with the fact that I am also seeing some strength that I'm building up translates to wrestling, even though I'm not a skilled wrestler and very, very little experience in wrestling. They are impressed by my strength and my ability to perform. So I noticed that it's so helpful and so good to really dive into something and become really good at it, because it also develops your ability to develop a skill. And that ability, well, if you look at it in a grandiose way, that is what life is about, because that translates to anything. Like eventually everything is a skill. Money is a skill, family is a skill, love is a skill, you name it. So being able to develop your body in this way does help you get that skill, and that's also the case for bodybuilding and more linear type of strength. It's just this combination is what the wrestler's body is about. You know, even the wrestlers, they also do strength training. They also lift weights. They also do pull-ups. You know, they want to develop their strength and their weight to become more powerful. And of course, the body is important, and aesthetics is important. So, of course, they do that. But they are also good at the thing that they actually do, the wrestling. And yeah, I want to conclude on that. If you have any comments on this topic, please put them in the comments. I'm gonna get some gas. Hope to see you soon in another vlog from the Flowing Dutchman. Ram Ram.
The Flowing Dutchman, yeah, the Flowing Dutchman. I'm Mr. Beberman, I be the Flowing Dutchman. Yeah, shuffle on the production. Like this, yeah, like this, yeah. The Flowing Dutchman, yeah, the Flowing Dutchman.